What's going on, guys? I just had a podcast. I got another one in like 20 minutes, but I just got a comment on one of my videos. I want to know why blood sacrifices are so important, why they're so powerful. So let me take you to the history of it, okay? This is how this works, people. Now, in the ancient times, okay, you had human sacrificing. Okay, that was how you appeased the god. You would send up a virgin, Virgo. You'd send up a virgin, girl. Or you would sacrifice a young person, okay? And that happened all the way through until the Old Testament for the Jews, okay? Because one of the first stories in the Bible is the story of Abraham. Or his name was Abram at the time. He was called Abraham after he committed this act. Abram, which is a combination of two words, Abba, which means father in Hebrew, and Ram, which is Ram, father of the age of Aries, but leave that alone. He brought his son Isaac at the behest of God. And as he's about to strike him down, an angel grabs his arm and tells him to stop because he tested his faith and it was good. From that exact moment, human sacrifices were no longer required for God. Okay? Why? What happened? Well, it was transferred to animals. Okay? Suddenly they had to make animal sacrifices to God because they no longer had to sacrifice humans because of what Abraham did. So they start sacrificing animals. Okay? And they do that throughout the Old Testament. In fact, all my decodings, almost all of them, completely revolve around that. They're like, bring me a goat, bring me a sheep, bring me a ram, bring me a bull. Those are the zodiac signs, people. But that aside, they consistently do that until the New Testament, or even through the New Testament. Because what happened? So initially you had human sacrificing. Abraham goes to slaughter Isaac. God stops him. Suddenly, human sacrifices are no longer needed. Okay? From a biblical perspective. Now you're slaughtering animals. Okay? You burnt offerings, they're called, because the Lord would smell the smoke going up and they'd be like, ooh, supposedly. That's something like, that's what happened. So they'd sacrifice animals. And then, when the New Testament comes, and Jesus gets put up on the cross and he dies, his blood shed, okay, means that you no longer have to sacrifice anything, okay, because he is the sacrifice. He's the scapegoat of Israel, okay? He's the sacrifice, and because of his bloodshed, now you don't have to. So you went from human sacrificing to animal sacrificing to needing no sacrificing alone. However, there are elites out there that continue to sacrifice humans, or they used to, okay? The Bohemian Grove, I think now it's just an effigy, which is just basically like a metal cage they fill with wood. I don't think they still, I know in the 80s they did, okay? But this is evil. This is satanic, okay? In the sense that people believe in Satan in that way. Not how a Satanist believes in Satan, because they don't. Satanists believe in themselves, and that's my biggest problem, is you're on earth, you should be giving to others, not completely self-absorbed. And that's my problem with the Satanists and the Luciferians. However, they're still doing sacrifices. Talking about the new one world religion that's opening up in Jerusalem. Okay, that's going to be preceded by the sacrifice, or the third temple. It's going to be preceded by the sacrifice of a perfect red heifer. Okay, it's going to be combed to make sure it doesn't have any gray or white hairs. And it's going to be sacrificed. Okay, that goes back to then. Okay, sacrifices are no longer needed if you follow the trail.